Welcome back for another video. Today we're going to take a look at an upright freezer. I'm going to be quiet for here just for a second and let you hear what this thing sounds like. It sounds like the compressor's vibrating, and in reality I've got something I want to show you. Now in the old days, the first reaction was to walk up to it and shake it a little bit, and sometimes it would stop vibrating on these older units. This newer stuff's not quite like that. And it also makes you think, well, maybe I should defrost it, and that might be true. This could save you a trip out for your serviceman to repair this, or possibly a complete failure of your freezer. And again, anybody can do this. This is no big deal. First thing we're going to do is pull this out away from the wall, and then we're going to unplug it. Let you listen to it one more time. In this particular unit, this is a Whirlpool. I'm sure the manufacturers of this particular brand is probably making 10 or 15 variations of this. I'm going to pull this out away from the wall. It is on wheels. Gives us a little bit of access here. And like I said, I'm going to unplug it. And stick that cord right there. Now the next thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to empty out the lower 2 or 3 shelves here. Let me get something to set the stuff in. We're going to have to empty out this shelf, basket, and this shelf. Let me get this stuff moved out of our way. And that should be able to stay there. Get this guy out. You're going to need a Phillips screwdriver, and you can see the 4 screws here. We're going to remove those and remove this access panel. There's a fan that sits right here, and that's where we're going. Ooh, it's cold in there. I happened to notice this thing getting louder and louder over the past week, and I really started thinking we was having a problem with it. Okay, now this panel's got a ground wire attached to it, so be really careful there. They leave you enough slack, and I'm going to lay this right back down. Okay. Now, this fan here is our culprit, and I'm going to show you why. Alright, what we have here, guys, I've got a nut driver. This is a 11/32 socket on there, and we're going to take these 2 screws loose. We don't have to worry about the plug-ins here. Let me get the fan loose and I'll show you what we're talking about. Anyway, back to my story. So this thing getting louder and louder, and the first time this actually happened, we defrosted everything and let everything thaw completely out. Plugged it back up, and it was quiet for a week or 2, and then it started having the same problem. Okay, now let me show you what's going on. We've got our fan loose, and it sits in there like that. You see this shaft right here? This fan, due to being cold inside, that's a spring clip. From it kicking on and off throughout the time it's running, has worked itself from, it needs to be setting up here, and has pushed itself down. Let me get it slid up here. I'll show you how we're going to do that, and I'll show you what it's actually doing. Well, that may be a better view right there. If you can see this nut and bolt that's holding this clamp on for the fan, that fan has worked its way down and actually grooved itself on every fan blade all the way around, and that's what you're hearing. That fan is sitting there clattering against those bolts and actually chewing the blades off of it. Okay, so if your freezer is sounding like it's got a compressor that's shaking or rattling on it, or that something's out of balance, you may check this. It's going to take you about 10 minutes, and that's probably the problem. You can see, I hope, it has actually cut a groove in every one of those fan blades. Now, if that is allowed to persist, it'll just simply knock your fan blades off, and then your unit's not going to work. You'd have to either get a new fan or possibly even a whole new unit. Show you how we're going to slide that up out of there. All right, so what I have here, we're going to have to pull this fan up, and I have simply gotten a flat piece of metal over on the bench in order to lay across the top of this so I'm not pushing down with my fingers onto this. Okay, you can use a small block of wood or anything, and we're just simply going to slide that fan, get this thing stationary where it's not moving around on you, and we're going to pull that fan right back up into position. If I can get up underneath it. All right, and that's the fix. And now that I have it out here better, you can see again where it is slotted each one of those fan blades because it was rubbing against these stationary bolts down here. So if your fan, if you hear this thing rattling, chances are that's probably your problem. Now, I am going to take a pair of pliers and squeeze this clamp down a little bit tighter. You have to be careful here. Now, this has been, in this freezer and everything is cold, so don't go prying around on it too much because you're liable to break something. Then you'll have to have a service call. But I'm just going to try to squeeze that clamp shut just a little bit tighter so that fan doesn't work its way, so this fan blade doesn't work its way back down on here. Because like I said, as it sets in there, each time it kicks off, the motor will turn backwards a little bit, and that lets that just slide right down the shaft here. Okay? Let's see if we can squeeze that clamp together, and then we'll put it back together. Now, like I said, everything is cold, so be careful here. I'm not using a lot of force, but I am going to squeeze that together just a little bit. And hopefully that problem won't happen again. All right, I think we've done it some good, guys. Let's put it back together and see how it's going to sound. Now, like I said, I didn't have to unplug it, so we're good there. Get everything lined back up. Now when you start tightening these sheet metal screws up, be careful there. You don't have to over tighten them because this sheet metal will strip out on you pretty easy. All right. Now, I'm going to back you out of there so I can plug this thing up and we'll see what it sounds like. That's all there is to it. It's 100% quieter. And like I said, that's sitting there just rattling around on this thing. That's all it took, So I'm going to put the shelves and things back in and we're going to call that fixed. And make sure you keep your plastic seal in the right spot. Let me get this down underneath that shelf. Just make sure your gasket is sealed back up there pretty good. Now with that fan being drawn in on the fan motor there, that really doesn't even allow the air to get up through this. This is a air duct that pushes out throughout the freezer. So with that being set back in the motor like that, it probably wasn't pushing as much air as it needed to either. So just a simple fix for you. I'll line that up without my glasses on. Alright, I got that one. Again, they don't have to be over tight, just snug them up. Alright, put everything back in the freezer now. I'm going to get it lined up. Get this girl back up. Oh, 100% improvement. Now, if you're not comfortable with this type of work, go ahead and call your serviceman. You're going to definitely, if it's sounding loud, you definitely want to get it serviced if you can't do that job yourself, because you don't want all your food going to waste. You're going to come in one day and this thing isn't going to be working, and that'll be a problem for you, okay? But if you are comfortable with that, like I said, about 10 minutes, take your time. All that stuff's cold. You don't want to do more damage than what you're repairing. But I guarantee you there's a lot of these sitting out there that has that sound going on. There's really no way to prevent that. I thought about maybe putting some hot glue around the backside of that fan blade so it couldn't slide down. But I think the glue, because of the temperature inside of the refrigerator or the freezer, would simply, just allow the same problem. So truly the best solution would be to have the fan motor completely off and actually spread that out just a little bit to where the fan blade itself couldn't slide down past that. That would be truly about the only way you could repair that for 100% fix. So there we have it. We do, again, definitely better than what it sounded like before we started on it. I hope this video is helpful for you in some way. I'll see you on the next one.